Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about my predictions and opinions on what the top meta strategies will be going into set 16 Realm of the Gods. Again, these are my ideas, thoughts, and predictions, so if you guys agree or disagree, of course, feel free to leave a comment down in the description. We can definitely open up some conversation as to what is going to be strong going into next format. Anyways, though, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, many ways to do so down in the description. But today, if you guys want to buy or pre-order any of the cards talked about in today's video, it will really help a lot if you use my link to TCG Player down in the description. Anyways, let's dive right into things. And I want to start off talking about my favorite color, yellow. These are the decks that I think are going to be the strongest for yellow going into set 16. Yellow Trunks, I think it literally just steps in very, very cleanly as the replacement to Yellow Icarus. I think it's just as simple as that. The leader is pretty similar on the face of it to what Icarus did. I guess doesn't draw quite as many cards because your Awakened turn, you're not going to draw the crazy amount that Icarus did, but you still have that same value of reviving a battle card that itself draws a card. And the leader also has the added flexibility of having a built-in double strike Champa, which is kind of insane. Like, I did a video yesterday talking about Bandai's design philosophy, and we talked a lot about how yellow is just the best cards in that color, and that's how the decks kind of get built. But the leaders really offer a lot of power to those decks that I think a lot of people don't realize, at least from some of the comments that I saw yesterday. Like, Icarus just allows you to see your entire deck every game. That's the main appeal that Icarus got, as well as having like a free super combo in a sense with the Higher Dragon just replacing itself when you combo with it. That was a big thing as well, and the Self Awaken is really good too. But the Trunks leader offers you a lot of that draw, offers you that early awaken, and that built-in double strike Champa is actually really, really crazy. That's super high value, and it can also be used defensively. Like, it's just super strong. So yeah, I really do think that yellow Trunks just kind of slots right in there as a replacement Icarus. I do think that Goku Black Wish is in a pretty unique position. It looks like a rather strong deck going into set 16. The awkward thing about just like yellow good card deck is that losing Power of a Super Saiyan makes your deck building and your consistency a bit more awkward, because you had Power of a Super Saiyan that was just so fluent in the deck, being used for free, replacing itself, all that good stuff, and it turned on your Steadfast Assistance Goku and your Mecha Frieza Robotic Riposte super easily. Don't get me wrong, all these yellow decks and Trunks decks, they're still going to play enough extra cards to meet the requirement for Robotic Riposte and Steadfast, but Goku Black meets that very, very easily through its Dragon Balls and other cards you could play, like possibly Personal Ambition. That's really good. And I do think that Goku Black can actually use Aegis very, very well, because its boss monster actually offers you some solid rewards for doing that. It's just that I think building the deck is very, very difficult because there's so much space required to make the engine work. So I don't know how many cards you'll actually be able to feasibly play to make the best use out of Aegis. I'm trying a few different builds myself, still trying to figure that out, but it does seem strong considering the power level of everything else from the previous ban list is bringing everything else down. But anyways, then we have Sin Shenron. This is one that I think a lot more people are catching on to. It did very, very well at a lot of different nationals, especially North American nationals. And this deck doesn't really feel all that affected by the loss of Power of a Super Saiyan. It's just a true hardcore control deck. And I did a video talking about the winners of the set 16 ban list. I really do think that control decks are in a much better spot going into set 16, and one of the big reasons for that, and Sin Shenron in particular, is that Cell Surge is gone. So these decks just aren't really punished for going to the hyper late game, and in Sin Shenron's case in particular, Fu Shrouded Mystery being gone is also a huge, huge check to Sin that it's now being just taken out of the game. That's really, really good for Sin. So I do expect it to do very, very well coming into set 16. And that's going to pretty much wrap up for yellow, at least what I think are the three best decks for yellow that'll all make some waves within the meta. Next up, we got to talk about black, one of the other boogeymen of the previous format that should still be really, really strong. I think we're going to see a lot of experimentation between the Gogeta Xeno leader and the new SSG Trunks leader, and how they're both going to incorporate the Gogeta Xeno engine and, use them to their best capabilities. I think that Gogeta Xeno is pretty much tried and true. We all know how it works. Basically allows you to get your fusion set up by milling the top 5 of your deck, and ideally by doing that, the other cards that you warp are going to be able to net you some value. You have Self Awaken built in. You also have the alternate win condition of going 1-drop spam, which is facilitated by the leader or the Pycon Unison if you choose to play that. However, what Trunks brings to the table is one, a main deckable floodgate in the form of the new Pan coming out in set 16, as well as the Birth of a Crimson Warrior extra card, which I think is actually a really cool card. It's basically just a 5k combo that you can use for free from the warp, and that's going to just give you a lot of defensive value. So overall, I do think that Trunks allows Gogeta Xeno to be played in a bit more of like a mid-rangey defensive style, where you can just kind of wear your opponent down with True Fighting Spirits, although Goku's obviously been nerfed with Unique, so that's going to be a little bit more difficult in that respect. But still, playing more defense, attacking with Gogeta Xeno every single turn, throwing a Dark Empire, and removing your opponent's board, just doing what you can to wear them down while playing really solid defense. As where Gogeta, I think, will still focus on drawing a lot of cards and, you know, getting those fusions set up and getting value off other cards that you mill to your warp. Hatchiyak, I don't think it's going to be that crazy in the meta, but again, I do think control decks are in a very good spot. Fu Shrouded in Mystery is definitely a card that Hatchiyak was worried about, no longer has to worry about now. I think it's still pretty solid. I think it'll still rely heavily on that SS4 Gogeta engine. This is probably the best deck to play that engine in, period. And I don't think tons of people will play Hatchiyak, but I do think it's in a much better spot, again, because you know, Fu Shrouded Mystery is gone, and I think control decks are moving up in the ranks in terms of their viability. Next, I want to talk about Red. Okay, Red U7 Goku, my opinion, this deck is absolutely bonkers. I've actually been playing it a lot more lately, and today I actually posted my personal list on the Patreon. If you want to check that out, really does help me out, and you guys can see how I'm playing it and how I'm you know, thinking about the deck. I think it's super strong. This deck is actual perfect mid-range because you can go pretty fast in aggro early on, or you could play a much more elongated game and kind of wear your opponent out of resources, play some high value defense. Red U7 Goku is looking absolutely incredible. My opinion, it's going to be the only real meta deck for Red. I think it's going to be that popular and that strong, but I think there will be other Red decks represented in the format, more so roguelike. I think that Jiren's a solid rogue Red deck. I think that Vegeta or Gohan are decent solid Red decks. I also think that Red Broly BR is okay, and that King Piccolo is okay, but I really think that a lot of people are hyped up on this U7 Goku deck, and for all the right reasons. This deck is really strong. I can't say enough good things about it, but we will get to the last two colors for today's video, guys. But real quick, we do have a word from today's video's sponsor. Yo, Dragon Ballers, real quick, I need to let you guys know about two events that are coming up soon, being hosted by PPG. All the info will be down in the description, but we have the Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fest from March 26th to the 27th. This is going to be the first ever event where they are trying out the sideboarded best of one format. Besides that, it'll just be a celebration of the Dragon Ball Super Card Game, so you're not going to want to miss it. The other one is for organized play through the Pro Play Tour. We have the regional qualifier April 2nd in Kentucky, shots to the Midwest, so you're definitely not going to want to miss that. Shout out to PPG because they run awesome tournaments, but also besides that, this is the thing I've been concerned about in the past, where these tournaments just don't get enough advertisement. So shout out to PPG for doing more and putting in more work to advertise these events. I hope to see you guys there. Let's get back into the video. All right, getting back into this, shout out to PPG for sponsoring today's video. Now we're talking about green. Green is in a really weird spot going into set 16. Its best deck that was basically carrying the color on its back, Cell Surge, is getting banned, so that's absolutely unplayable. And none of the set 16 green archetypes are looking anything better than Rogue. Like, it's honestly really bad. They're super gimmicky. The past like 3 sets have introduced these really gimmicky green decks that don't really have a chance in terms of the meta. Maybe they're cool to locals, maybe they're decent rogue decks, but they're just really not all that great. So what do we have to look forward to? King Cold and Gotenks, because these are the only decks that have been able to prove themselves, but not really at much more than a rogue level. So can these decks step up a bit more now that theoretically the rest of the color pool and the rest of the card pool has been brought down a peg or two? I really don't think these decks are going to escape the realm of Rogue, mostly because green as a whole is just a lot weaker seemingly than the rest of the card pool and color pool. But I think these are still going to be decks you can expect to do well at a Rogue level. So unfortunately, while green is losing their best deck, not much else is changing in terms of the other green representatives, and they're not really going to make it out of Rogue, at least, again, in my opinion. Maybe you have a sleeper Rogue deck for green, or maybe a sleeper green deck in general. Let me know down in the comments. But anyways, let's talk about our last color, and possibly the most controversial, which is blue. Many players expect blue, specifically Soul Striker, to be the de facto best deck in the format, but we've fallen under this assumption before, and I think it's a really easy thing to fall to when a new ban list comes out. And don't get me wrong, Soul Striker does seem absolutely insane just on the face of it. The leader is a value powerhouse, untapping 2, making things like Sand Instincts just perfect value on turn 2, amongst other things, right? It is getting to do more plays than any other deck. And while it gets to play with more energy than any other deck, it usually also has a super huge hand size, again, because of cards like Sand Instincts, as well as the Unisons that oftentimes draw cards in this strategy. But we have fallen for that before, where we automatically thought Soul Striker would become the best deck, and it didn't quite get there. Yellow should still be a really strong contender, definitely fighting for that top spot with blue Soul Striker. But I do think there are 2 other blue decks that can be pretty solid going into this next format. I think SS4 Ramp is going to be okay because, again, Cell Surge is gone. That was the really bad matchup for SS4 Vegeta. But I think a lot of people will be equipped with Jiren Survival of the Fittest, so Android 17 turning the tide spam is not really going to be all that it once was. Plus, I think people have just kind of adapted and figured out some other ways to deal with Android 17 turning the tide, like in yellow, for example. Teching in the Makikabura Unison is actually a really good way to play around Android 17. But yeah, I still think it'll be a good deck because its worst matchup, actually its auto loss matchup, was eliminated from the format. And I actually also think that SS3 Reboot is interesting to explore. I don't think it'll be better than either of these 2 decks, but the reason I think it's interesting to explore is because the leader is actually just a perfect fit for the new SSG Goku coming out in set 16, the SR. And that card is insane. Your leader will untap 3, and then you'll be able to just like negate an attack with a Deadly Defender that has incredible protection, and it can put on pretty significant pressure to your opponent once it goes back to your turn. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for my thoughts on the 5 colors and their best representatives going into the set 16 meta. Again, you guys might disagree or agree with some of my picks. Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Yo, Dragon Ballers, I want to say thank you guys for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, definitely consider dropping a like. Really does help me out, and maybe consider watching the next video, which should be on the screen right here. Yeah.
Wait, D6 good yet?
No, Chris, not yet.
All right, I'll see you next set.
All right.